I love dyeing fabric because you don't know what you're going to get. I was born at Butte, in South Australia, October the 2nd, 1938. My grandmother on my mother's side, she married my grandfather Jemison and had 7 children through the Depression, which my mother was the eldest. I can still hear her complaining about she wanted to be a teacher and wasn't allowed to be because she had to be home to look after all these children that came to be born year after year after year. We used to have a dressmaker come out to Butte on the rail car, and we used to learn dressmaking, which I absolutely loved. That was once a week. I wanted to take him dressmaking, but Mother said I wasn't good enough. So that sort of squashed that. You know, I was never encouraged to sort of try. No, because it just might go wrong and someone might judge you on it. That's how life was, and you just went along with it. If you rebelled, you were a naughty girl and sent somewhere else. Don't you bring shame on my family. I could just hear it now. Goodness me. Well, I met Malcolm and my husband at a dance, and we were married in 1958 at Butte. And in the meantime, Malcolm had bought 2,000 odd acres of scrub at Tintinara, and he wanted to live down there, right or wrong. But oh my goodness, when I look back now, I think what an idiot I was. So I made sure my daughters never made the same mistake I did. Starting my married life in 1958 and living in an unlined shed with no power, and the nearest phone was 5 miles away by road, it wasn't all it was cracked up to be. We had terrific neighbours, and if it wasn't for them, I don't think I could have done it. The loneliness still sticks in my mind, and it was with very little money. You had to have a reason to travel somewhere. With 2 small daughters, a visit to the baby health train at Tintinara was a trial. I was living out on that property, which was 15 and a half miles from Tintinara. No car, no phone, and these tiny babies. I look back now and I think, I must have been young and stupid. And it was 1970 when we moved into made the decision to move in. It nearly killed my husband because he knew nothing else. And we arrived in there on trucks and kids and chooks and dog and, you know, from farm, and my kids all yelled on top note. We suddenly lobbed into Eleanor Terrace, and I think that's quite a shock to the neighbours. But anyway, we survived and they survived. Because we had 4 kids and 1 job and 1 wage, I started to take in sewing, and I made millions, what felt like millions of ballet costumes, sewing on sequins. And I used to do that for next door to nothing, and I used to think, but anyway, it was money in the pocket, and it got us through. Quite a few years later, in 1982, Priscilla Schwert and I opened up a shop at Manham Road, and we sold sewing machines and a bit of haberdashery. While we had the shop, quilting started here in Australia. I've started to create my own quilts by this time, so I started leaning towards making quilts that were free machine embroidered and that sort of way. I love dyeing fabric and just creating it in general. The one last year was called My 70 Years, and it started in 1938. Well, that's when the war was on and everything was tough, and I can remember my mother's dresses, so that was a sort of a starting point. I've actually sold a few, but there's a big heap at home, and if I drop dead, I don't know what my girls are going to do with it.